Hello and welcome to Enwins 3D Models. And I know what you're thinking, who the heck are we? Well, my father is a railway modeller with 50 years experience to bring into the business, and I have some experience in the specialist car industry and as a TV producer. So what do we bring to you that you can't get from somewhere else? Well, we design 3D printed models. Electrochem drones, which you can assemble yourself, so you can have a drone which is personalised, you've assembled it yourself, you get that little extra attachment and pleasure from flying something you've built yourself without the need for anything more complicated than a screwdriver. With the locomotives we do, it's 00 scale steam locomotives. At the moment we will be expanding, but the idea is you buy one of our bodies, they fit an existing chassis, you don't need special skills, you just need time, patience and the ability to paint it and detail it so that you've got something completely unique for your layout. And that brought us to this idea, the 4B1. Unlike my father, I am not that experienced in soldering, I'm not that experienced in wiring up. And I thought that there will be others like me. Maybe there's someone who's retired and they're in a little flat somewhere and they don't have room for a train set to lay it all out. Or somebody with children and they want something that they can mount to a wall on sturdy brackets. This 4B1 gives you that, and it comes in two specifications. This one is the full spec. It's £465, and what you get is one of our Avonside 040T locomotives, fully built, painted and ready to go, along with 2 trucks and a guard's van. You have all the static grass laid so that it's all there ready to go. You can use it as it is. There are manual points, but the track is all painted. All the wiring is done. There's a control box here with 3 different sections, so you can actually run more than one locomotive on here if you wish to. The background is painted, but you can still add your own back scene. You can still put your own buildings. You can add your own individuality. You've just got a head start. You can go straight away and use it as it is and add to it later. And this retails for £465 with £50 delivery to mainland England and Wales. The lower spec version is for somebody who's a little bit more experienced. They still might not have room or time to build the structure. They might not fancy doing the wiring or the time or maybe the skill set to do the wiring and the soldering. We've still done that for you. The track is laid but nothing is painted, there's no static grass, and you can then express yourself with the layout, paint it yourself and go that little bit further to personalise it, and that retails for £265 plus the same £50 delivery to mainland England and Wales.
So I've masked off the pickups at this end because we don't want to cut off the sand fillers.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's where we go. Now the way to do this is to take care, not try to rush it. It does go surprisingly quickly, but the main thing is to make very sure that you're cutting it off as close as possible to the chassis frame. So we just cut away very carefully, very slowly. Don't forget that precision is better than speed, obviously, and you just plug away at this. Working on that side, and then maybe see better how it needs to go from that side. But you just cut through that, and as you see, it's done quite nicely. And they will be off in no time. Okay, so after that you end up with the sand boxes cut off. As you can see, it's come off quite nicely. Minimum amount of rubbing down, but if you need to, just fine it down till it's flat. You want that surface to be flat. And you've got two sand boxes then. They can go in the bit spots because this loco doesn't have them on. They can go in the bit spots for a loco that needs them, that you have. Okay. Next, we take the cylinders. These go on the front of a pod, of course, but they need to go on the back of the farthest loco. So we have to cut them off their carrier and mount them at the back where the sandboxes used to be. So this is another quite simple procedure, just a little bit of care, and we cut those through with a razor saw. So that's one off, one to go. Right. And there we have it. Two cylinders separated. Now check for how flat they are. You can test this against the existing face, which is flat, and the other half which you cut through, and that one isn't very far out, just a little bit of filing on the edge. The other one, again, that's got a bit of a step on it, so we'll have to file that down a bit more to make sure the whole lot is flat, but that won't take long, and it's not very much. Okay, to get the cylinders in the right place, we just need, obviously they've got to go on a flat surface, so we just need to take the little shoulder off the brake operating gear here, so the cylinder can fit up snug against that part of it. So we just cut away at this. Craft knife usually does the job. The next job is to take off the top of the spring hanger, just below the pip, and take that piece off. we are.
Can you hold it up?
Now we need to take a small amount off each end because the chassis needs to be slightly shorter than the pug chassis is. So what we take off is this little bit here. In other words, just where the Hornby couplings mount. So that's what we're doing. There's a recess. We just put it back to the recess on there, and that should be enough for that end.
How much take off the
The other end you take off the same amount. So essentially just where the Hornby mount is, you cut back to there, and that will be enough. Now we just tidy up the ends a bit with a file. Doesn't have to be exact because this will fit inside the chassis as is, even without the filing. But it just gives some nice edges where it's going to show. Right, and that's the chassis mods complete. So now we start assembly. Okay, there's just one modification needed now, and that is on the slide bar carrier. You just need to shave a little bit off the ends. There's a little ridge on the top which you can't see, so that's why I've done a cut to show where it will be. You need to take that much off to narrow it down to fit inside the body when it's assembled. Okay, as you now see, the cylinders are glued on. They were set in the right place by using the slide bar supports as a guide, and at the bottom on the brake, where the brake rods are moulded on, the cylinders rest on the bottom there, and as I said earlier, just behind the top part of it, so they're a nice snug fit. They've now been glued on, and it's ready for the next stage. Right, one last job before assembly. Just use the bridging piece that you've cut off to fill the gap at the front of the chassis. So do that. Use liquid poly, and that's all I've used to fasten the cylinders on. Liquid poly. That's all you need. Put too much on there. Let that set for a bit. It's ready for final assembly. Before we do that, you just need to take the body and on the front screw, just ream that out a little bit. You need a 2mm drill and just ream that out, because the Hornby screws, although they're self-tappers, they don't have a point on, so it's difficult to start them. And yeah, that's it, job done. Right, now there's the chassis assembled, I'll put the rods on because they're difficult to get on. Well, you can't get them on once it goes onto the body. So this is still detachable, of course, so it's not a problem. You just slide those in ready for going onto the chassis, onto the body. And the next step is to actually put the body on. So you've got your wires which go through the holes that are in the bottom of the body. And that just slides in quite nicely. And the body should be a nice snug, the chassis should now be a nice snug fit onto here, onto the body. You may have to file a little bit off the end of the steps to get it to fit properly, but that's just a minor point. So chassis on the body, and now it's time to put the screw in to hold the body on. Now you only need that one screw at the front, and the motor mount will hold it at the back. The other attachment, the other screw hole that the chassis has got is for when you put sorry, it's not there, little one there. That is for on the Hornby. It holds the weight on. Now with this, the next step before we do anything else is to put a bit of weight in. Now I've got a bit of rolled up lead. That's totally on PC, but it works for me. So I can't officially say you've got to use this, but it's a very good way of weighting it, as you will know. So that goes into the boiler, and then we will pack that with a bit of sponge to hold it in. Okay, here's one I prepared earlier. So we just roll it up. Don't fasten anything around it because it won't expand then when it's in the hole. So we have to try and get it in there. Try using a pair of pliers, shall we? And squeeze it in. And then that will expand and hold itself and the weight inside. Just put it down well so that it clears the motor, or where the motor will go. That's it. Now that's ready. The next step is to put the wheels on. Now what I have done here is I've changed the wheels round so that you have the what were the front on the pug and now on the back, and the drive wheel takes the what were the front ones. So the drive axle takes the what were the front ones. So they go on the back, and the other ones go on the front, of course. You do need to as you're taking both off, you do need to quarter them up, but it's not too difficult with a bit of practice. The next thing is put the wheels in and the TV plate on to make sure that they stay in, so we'll put that on now. And we'll put a screw in there to hold it. So that holds them in, and then we put the connecting rods on. This is how it looks now. The chassis is on the body. The next job is to slide the motor on. Now, little tip, this doesn't have a back of the cab doesn't come off like the homey one, so it just goes straight down. So if you put the screw on first, that helps you to do it without having to locate the screw afterwards. Now all we have to do is feed the wires into the motor through the motor mounts. Easier said than done, but we'll get there sooner or later. Both wires, I hope they're coming through now. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so there's the wires coming through. There's the motor going in, and the final job is to screw it down. There you are, job done. And all we need to do now is solder the wires on, and away you go. I'll just bend them over for now and put the top on.
This locomotive is a replica of a Hunslet that was bought in 1904 by the Cambrian Railway from the Lambourne Valley Railway. Now, the significance of this particular one is that it was one of 3 locomotives, 2 of them were Hunslets, and it went on to be absorbed by the Great Western, and this is one of our things. We like to model absorbed locomotives. So this locomotive comes from our Shapeways shop. The buffers are fitted. The only thing you need to fit to this are the handrails, which I've done myself, as you can probably tell, and painting. And the mountings are already there, 2 at the front, 1 at the rear, which go straight onto an Electrochem chassis. Now, the original prototype, as you can see, is already fitted to a chassis, but there are 2 variations on the Electrochem 060 chassis. This is with the older one, which we've actually designed our model to take. And the two mounting points, or the two screws, if I can grab a screwdriver and show you, the two at the front are situated behind the cylinders here. Yeah? And the one at the back is obviously here at the back. And that's where our body is designed to mount. Now, on the later Electrochems, there is an off-center screw, as this one is here, which actually mounts through to the body. It also holds on the chip on the inside, which I'll show you in a second. Now, what we do is basically take two 1mm by 5mm screws, and we use those to attach via the original mounting point, which is still drilled into the chassis. I think they must have changed it for ease of production, but the chassis is essentially the same. So that's the only thing you need to watch. Now here I have two Electrochem boxes. This is the older one that we designed our model for. So I'll let you take a close look at that. GV 2005. And as shown, that just screws straight on using the original screws from the donor. This is one of the newer ones, GV 2017. And nice little box, nice little loco, but HO gauge. Ours are 00 gauge. I shall take this body off and demonstrate how easy it is to assemble our kit. As you can see, we have the screw at the back and the off-center one at the front, which isn't there on the prototype. So anyway, so we take this screw out at the back, trying not to lose the screw, and the one at the front. And the logo should come away, which it does. And here lies the problem. The chip is attached to the screw which goes through the body. Now, we don't need the screw, but we do need the chip. And it's a clearance hole. Having taken that screw out, we're left with the chip being loose. And what I'm going to do is a bit Heath Robinson. I'm just going to put a dab of glue on there to hold it on. Not enough that you couldn't remove it if you needed to, but enough to stop it moving around and keep it safe. You can see through the chassis the two holes at the front by the cylinders. That's where you attach the loco to our body. Now, one thing I'd recommend with this is just get a drill and just open out the holes a little bit, just to allow the screws to get started, especially at the back, because it's not a self-tapping screw. And what I've also done is screw the screws in so that they actually get a bit of a thread in the hole ready, which will make assembly that little bit easier. With a dab of contact adhesive holding the chip in place, so that shouldn't move, we're now ready to fit the body. And it's just a case of feeding it all in nice and gently. so that it's all neatly lined up. Make sure that you're happy that the body is level. I think there it's slightly out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to file away the two front mounts just a little bit, just to level up the chassis a little bit. Just gently take a little bit off. Once you're happy, the last stage is the easiest of all. Being careful with the bit that you've just glued on. You're now ready to line up and screw in the holes. Once you're happy, you just get the screws and screw it all together. I would recommend starting with the rear one, which will hold everything in place. Don't do it up fully tight, just grabbing like that. Then the fiddly bit, getting the front two screws in. Let's try the other side. Straight in. Can you believe it? This is fiddly, I will admit, but it's worth it. So that's two 5mm by 1mm screws, and that's your loco all assembled. Now, you'll notice the lack of Great Western decals. It's Great Western spelt out. We've tried looking at 4mm decals and they're too large. So we're going to look at 3mm, and you just want Great Western written across there in the Great Western typeface.
So preparation for the Hornby chassis to take an Avonside body. First of all, you're going to need to file down the edges on the Loto and a little bit round the back where there's a ridge for the original moulding, and we need to make sure that the chassis isn't affected by the filing, so we separate the chassis from the lower body. So you unscrew the screw. Not all of them have screws holding it down, depends on the model. So some do, some don't, but it makes no difference because they are clipped in. So we just use some pliers and unclip, and there we are, on its way out. Be very careful in getting it out because it's got little springs on the side which hold the motor on, and these tend to catch, so you have to make sure it comes out cleanly. Depending on the body, some need a little bit more metal taking off than others, so just go very carefully, make a start, use a small file. If you use a big one it tends to overrun and you take a lot of metal off somewhere else where you don't want it. So first cut is to file it down and make sure it's even top to bottom, and you can tell by just looking at it if it's an even width all the way down. You know you're doing the right thing. Okay, so that needs the same on both sides. That does happen as well. You need a steady hand. And we also need to go around the sides. Take the edge off towards the back. If it's a nice smooth run at the top, it helps sliding the body on in any case. So just get that a bit smoother. And we'll have a go at this ridge at the back. But we want to make this, it doesn't have to come off all the way down, but takes some of it off, just helps that little bit for the body to slide on. And again, if you smooth it at the top, that's another help. Okay, so that's a start, and then the next thing is a trial fit. The filing's all done, the chassis reassembled, and it's time to fit the body. Now, before we do that, we check the springs that hold the motor mount on, or hold the motor on rather. They have got a loop on each end, and if they stick out too much, you have to get a pair of pliers and twist them so that they sit more or less vertically. Now these on this particular one are okay, But if you do get them, they can come out and they stick right out, and because it doesn't match with the other original Hornby body. But with this one it does. So make sure that they're sitting pretty well vertical by doing a little twist with a pair of long nose pliers. Now we try the body. Chassis assembled, body goes on thus, and the springs still catch a little bit, so we'll give them a little helping hand to go inside the body. That's one side done, and the other side done. I've still got one. Dear dear. That's it. Body on and job done. There you have it, one Avonside, which isn't a bad looking loco.
Now, in order to assemble the Wigan locomotive, this is the easiest of our locomotives to do. Now, here is the donor backman, and all these little plastic tabs hold the body on. There are no screws, it is all plastic tabs. So what you need to do is push these in using a little screwdriver or squeezing the body in, and the body will lift off. And after you've done that, this. And as you can see, there's the holes where the tabs came through that hold the body on. So this is now a complete footplate, chassis attached, everything is ready to go. You can run this on a track like this, it will work. And then you take your painted Enwins Wigan 060 and you simply place it on top. It's that simple. Now, it is entirely up to you how you fix the body to the chassis. There is a flat flange on the bottom. This is a self-printed one, not a Shapeways one. And you could use something as simple as double-sided sticky tape so that you've got access for maintenance and repairs, which would be perfectly acceptable. You could screw it down, you could glue it down, but for me, double-sided sticky tape is enough to allow you to get in for maintenance without the body moving around, and it doesn't move around too much as it is. That really is the easiest Enwins 3D models locomotive body to fit.
Feel free to ask questions. We love questions. Go to our Facebook page, the Enwin 3D Models Facebook page,
and there you can ask us questions about the models and how to order them if you wish to order a 4B1. Just click on the link and we will help you.